Okay, welcome back. So in the previous videos, I went over some of the important Homo heidelbergensis specimens, their morphology. I went over two of the evolutionary relationships, and in this video, I will go over the behavior and archaeology associated with archaic Homo or Homo heidelbergensis. Okay, so the hominin stone tool traditions that we have covered thus far. So at 2.6 million years ago, we have the old one, right? Just simple core and flakes. At 1.8 million years ago, coincident with the appearance of Homo erectus, and I should mention that, yes, the old one is associated with Homo habilis. At 1.8 million years ago, associated with Homo erectus, we have the Acheulean. So more complicated flaking. They're going for this teardrop shape. This is known as a hand axe, and they're flaking the stone on both sides. So the side we can see, and of course the side that's facing away from us. So you can imagine, as we're going more recent in time, with the appearance of species with larger brains, smaller teeth, we're going to get more sophisticated stone tool technologies. So 300,000 years ago, we have what's known as the Lavawa industry, far more complicated than an Acheulean hand axe. And I'll show you why now. Okay, so Lavawa technique. What you do is you pre-flake the core to get a flake of predetermined size and shape. So not only are you flaking the core to match some predetermined form, like in the Acheulean, you're actually taking it one step further because you're flaking the core to get a certain form. So you can knock off one flake of predetermined size and shape. So you can get this kind of ovate flake, or perhaps more impressively, you can get points, right? And these were most likely hafted on to a wooden shaft to be used as thrusting spears. So how do you flake a core to get a predetermined size and shaped flake? Well, I have this GIF or GIF, still don't know. What you do is you, again, pre-shape the core as is going on here. And what you're looking for is this one ridge down the middle. It's because when you flake stone tools, the flake will pop off where the mass is the greatest. So if you have this one ridge kind of raised above the rest of the surface, that's going to be the area with the most mass. And so you can flake it off. The flake will follow and surround that ridge. And that's how you knock off flakes of predetermined size and shape. You're basically shaping it to get that ridge. And so this flake will pop off in a predictable way. So this is how you knock off flakes of a certain size and shape, like this oval flake. And you use the same principle and technique to knock off flakes that look like points. So the second line of evidence looking at Homo heidelbergensis behavior that I want to cover is the archaeological evidence for controlled fire and hearths. So in the Homo erectus lecture, the last one, I did say that there were these reddened burnt patches at Kubi 4 in Kenya dated to 1.5 million years ago. Whether that was indicative of controlled fire, that's still controversial. It's still controversial whether Homo erectus controlled fire, but with Homo heidelbergensis, it's quite clear that the species did control fire. So let's look at the evidence. So there's a site called Terra Amata in France, dated at 350,000 years ago. You have these spatially concentrated ashes, which may be indicative of a fireplace. So this is what a reconstruction of the site looks like. So right here, you would have the spatially concentrated ashes. They also did find this stone wall, which the researchers hypothesized might have been used to anchor some type of shelter to protect the fire from, say, wind. Okay, the second site is known as Schöningen in Germany, dated to 400,000 years ago. And at this site, there are several possible hearths that are about 1 meter in diameter. So here's a picture of that. So this is the surface of the site. Here we're seeing a cross-section of the geology, the different layers, right? And again, remember, law of superposition. This layer is younger than this layer. But here you see a reddened contact which the researchers think might be due to a hearth and controlled fire. The most convincing evidence for controlled fire is at the site in Israel called Gesher Ben Yaakov, dated 780,000 years ago. And this is the oldest and most agreed upon evidence for controlled fire use in the hominin record. And so here at the site, we have burnt seeds, wood, and flint. And these are all concentrated spatially, indicative of some type of fireplace or hearth around which they would have made stone tools, and the shards would have been burnt just by being in proximity to the fire. Wood, of course, used to fuel fire, and burnt seeds, perhaps they were cooking things, or again, they were just doing activities around the fire, and anything that they were doing and discarding in and around the fire would have been burnt. So again, at 780,000 years ago, this is when we have the oldest definitive evidence of fire use and controlled fire in the hominin archaeological record. Okay, so at that site of Schoningen, not only do they have evidence for possible hearths, they also have, and this is extremely cool, wooden spears preserved. So wood, being organic material, usually decays, rots away, does not preserve. But the conditions at the site were so special that we do get preserved wooden spears. So quite remarkable. Here is just zooming in on the points of the spears. And here is just an archaeological experiment trying to recreate those spears. Right, here's an artist's reconstruction of what the hominins might have been doing. They might have been making the spears around a fireplace. They might have fired the tips of the wooden spears to harden them. Open question. But yes, there are many spears, and you could see how long they are. Right, here's a scale, here's 1 meter, so this one's about 2 meters long. So I have, this picture has 4 spears showing different views of each spear. But what's most important about these spears is that it's the first definitive evidence of hunting in the hominin archaeological record at 400,000 years ago, right? You're not going to make a spear and just stab some dead animal on the ground. You basically make spears to kill an animal. And of course, that is equivalent to hunting. And these are quite heavy spears, so they would not have been thrown. They would have been used to thrust into the animal. So again, spears are definitive evidence for hunting. And at 400,000 years ago, as shown again, this is the oldest definitive evidence of hunting we have in the hominin record. So pretty cool. Corroborating that evidence of spear hunting is this horse scapula found at a site in England called Boxgrove. This is dated 400,000 or 500,000 years ago, so 100,000 years older than Schoningen. And you could see here, right, that round puncture mark, which fits so nicely with that wooden spear. So this poor horse was at the receiving end of a hominin spear thrust. It died because it's not healed over, and so the hominin hunted this horse. And you could see here, this is what was actually preserved as a fossil, and this is just kind of filling in the blank. Okay, so that concludes the 4th video about behavior and archaeology associated with Homo heidelbergensis. Next up, we're going to go over another archaic Homo species. This one's Homo naledi, and this one is pretty fun, and you will see why.